Hello, welcome to AdAlta. My name is Tim Oldham. I'm the CEO and Managing Director, and I'd like to thank you for joining me today. AdAlta is an Australian-listed drug discovery and development company focused on using our unique antibody technology to develop protein-based therapeutics against some of the most challenging drug targets our industry is addressing today. In the course of my remarks today, I would like to introduce the company and our technology and highlight some of our recent achievements and our growth strategy into the future. I will be making forward-looking statements, and as a listed company, these statements are necessarily subject to risk and uncertainty and cannot be guaranteed, and the usual caveats apply. As I mentioned, AdAlta is a clinical stage drug discovery company, and we're just about to enter a significant expansion phase in our life cycle. Everything we do is built upon our patented antibody platform. It's a unique single domain antibody-like platform designed for drug discovery against targets that challenge traditional antibodies. We're using this to develop first a pipeline of internal assets, the first of which, AD214, is a first-in-class anti-fibrotic, now in phase 1 studies to clinically validate the platform and address the $3 billion idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis market, in addition to opportunities to extend into other fibrotic diseases. We're also partnering our platform to develop an external pipeline, the first product of which is being developed in collaboration with GE Healthcare as an antibody-enabled PET imaging agent to target the $100 billion immuno-oncology market. And finally, our growth strategy aspires to build multiple antibody-enabled assets, essentially building a pipeline by progressing and adding value to our existing assets, AD214 and the GE Healthcare asset, further expanding internal pipeline assets in our sweet spot of G protein coupled receptors in inflammation, oncology, and fibrosis, and adding external pipelines where our partners bring target biology together with funding, and we bring our antibody technology to develop new drugs. 2020 has been a transformational year for AdAlta. At the platform level, we are the first fully human single domain antibody platform and the first based on the shark motif to reach clinical trials. We've evaluated over 20 targets to date, and we're selecting from that 20 targets our next internal candidates. The second major achievement was the transformation of our company to a clinical stage company, taking our lead internal asset AD214 into phase 1 clinical trials. Following preclinical efficacy and safety data, a US FDA pre-IND meeting, this trial commenced in Australia in July this year. We've so far achieved around half or just over half of our initial dose levels in healthy subjects. The initial safety data will read out in Q1 2021. Our lead external pipeline asset with GE Healthcare is a collaboration we commenced just a year ago, and so far we've earned over $1 million in milestones and research fees through 30th of September this year, and we're now into the lead optimization stage, which will be complete in Q1 2021 when GE will take over preclinical and clinical development of this asset. And in March this year, we outlined a growth strategy built around progressing both of the lead assets, but also adding up to 5 internal assets and 3 to 5 external partnerships over the next 3 years. We've just completed an $8.1 million capital raise and a fully subscribed placement and rights issue that will help us to accelerate that growth trajectory. So let me turn now to our antibody platform. It's a family of single domain antibodies specifically designed to address difficult drug targets. The initial research was conducted on the shark single domain antibody system, or VNAR. We discovered a human protein that overlaid almost exactly on the shark scaffold. And from that, we were able to develop an antibody library using a fully randomized binding domain of CDR1 and CDR3 loops to create antibody libraries of billions of examples, all of which are on a fully human scaffold. This is, as I mentioned, the first fully human single domain scaffold. All other companies working in the space are either using camelid or shark scaffolds. and it's the first from the shark motif to enter clinical trials. These single domain antibodies are advantaged over traditional antibodies with the long binding loops. The CDR3 loop in particular is twice the length of a traditional antibody, which provides unique target access and binding, biased pharmacology, and many possible formats. We've hit more than 20, in fact, more than 25 targets to date, comprising some of the most challenging targets our industry is addressing, ranging from G protein coupled receptors and ion channels to enzymes, ligands, and protein interfaces. So the first asset we've been developing from this platform is AD214. It's a first-in-class anti-fibrotic. It targets the CXCR4 receptor, which is a critical player in the development of fibrosis in many organs. The images on the left here show normal human lung tissue, a nice open architecture, and a fibrotic lung tissue where the deposition of collagen and the stiffening of the interstitial matrix shows a significant inhibition of lung function, and the brown staining represents or shows the increase in CXCR4 expression in diseased tissue. AD214 is a first-in-class molecule. It is the only CXCR4 antagonist being developed to treat fibrosis. It has potential in multiple fibrotic and cancer indications, and has been specifically designed for fibrosis with novel pharmacology, including limited to no mobilization of stem cells, which is the major limitation of use of other CXCR4 antagonists for this particular indication. AD214 is protected by granted patents expiring in 2036. Earlier this year, we demonstrated efficacy in the gold standard animal model of idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, the bleomycin mouse model. And again, here you see on the left-hand side, normal mouse tissue architecture. In the center, IPF development in mouse lung tissue after 21 days after bleomycin administration. And on the right, the effect of treating after day 8 with AD214 and a retention of much more normal tissue architecture. We're focused initially on idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Now, why is that? It's an irreversible, unpredictable, and incurable disease. We know that CXCR4 is implicated in IPF, and in fact is implicated in a broader range of interstitial lung diseases. There are 300,000 people living with IPF around the world today, and the average survival from diagnosis is less than 4 years. There are 2 marketed therapies. They generate over $3 billion worth of sales today, but they come with significant safety and efficacy limitations. They only slow the rate of progression of fibrosis by about a half, and there's very limited evidence that they extend survival. Importantly, and rather disconcertingly, the burden of fibrotic lung disease following COVID-19 is actually likely to be high. There is significant evidence to suggest that survivors of COVID-19 will incur significant long-term respiratory side effects with a fibrotic component. And an article published in The Lancet earlier this year highlighted the potential for anti-fibrotic therapies to potentially prevent severe COVID-19 in IPF patients, and more importantly, to prevent fibrosis after SARS-CoV-2 infection. This could significantly expand the market for anti-fibrotic therapies in general and AD214 in particular, and it's an area that we're monitoring very closely. So, as I mentioned, we came of age as a biotech company by becoming a clinical stage company earlier this year. Our phase 1 clinical trial program comprises a single dose component in healthy volunteers, which is underway right now. This will read out in Q1 2021 and will be followed by a component in patients, in ILD and IPF patients. And this is really important because, as we saw earlier, the expression of CXCR4 in patients is significantly upregulated, and it's very important that we're able to understand the impact on PK and PD of the increased expression of target receptor. As of this month, we've now treated 28 participants in the phase 1 healthy volunteer component. We've completed 5 cohorts ranging from 0.01 up to 5 milligrams per kilogram with no safety findings of clinical concern. We've treated the first patients at 10 milligrams per kilogram with no adverse events of note reported to date, and we plan a maximum dose of 20 milligrams per kilogram in this component. We do believe that we are now within the therapeutic, or the potential therapeutic window was estimated and predicted from our preclinical work. And in order to mitigate the effects of potential COVID impacts on recruitment, we have opened a second site to ensure timely completion of this study. The second part of the study is now being fine-tuned design-wise as a result of the results emerging from Part A. And of significance, we are developing a radio-labeled version of AD214 so that we are able to use PET tracing to track the distribution of AD214 and its receptor occupancy in patients. As you recall, again, CXCR4 is significantly upregulated in the lung tissues of patients. We can't track that in the same way that we can in the peripheral blood. And so we need an imaging agent to enable us to do that. And this has really enabled us to get much more information from our phase 1 program. We've also partnered with Telix Pharmaceuticals, one of the leading radiopharmaceutical companies in Australia and indeed the world today, to ensure that we have access to leading chelation technology for this particular tracer. So where to after phase 1? By the end of next year, we should have the first PET images and be well the way through the patients components of the phase 1 studies for AD214. And with safety, PK, receptor occupancy, and receptor distribution data in hand, we believe that a partnering window will open for this asset. There are a number of active early stage partnering deals being done in the last 18 months, as evidenced by the examples on this slide, with significant upfronts. The novel mode of action targeting CXCR4 is expected to be attractive. And so we believe that there will be significant interest in partnering towards the end of phase 1, both from regional companies across Asia as well as global pharmaceutical companies. We won't be obliged to partner at the end of phase 1. We do have significant indication extension options, as well as progressing in IPF and ILD to phase 2 at relatively low cost for the value uplift that may occur at that time. We're investigating and have preclinical data in hand in a variety of other indications, particularly liver, eye, kidney, and we're exploring cancer at the moment. And this gives us significant optionality on this asset going forward, both adding value to partnering opportunities as well as our own internal programs. So turning now to our external pipeline, the first example of which is with our collaboration with GE Healthcare. But this is typical of these types of collaboration, where we're combining our iBody platform with a target brought to us by the partner company, in this case, granzyme B, which is a biomarker of immuno-oncology drug activity. AdAlta is conducting the discovery phase, after which GE will take over development and commercialization. As at the end of October, we identified a panel of iBodies and had moved those into lead optimization, after which, as we mentioned, GE will take over preclinical development. We've generated over $1 million of milestones and research fees to date, demonstrating the commercial attractiveness of the platform, and we'll continue to earn milestones and royalties as this product continues through preclinical and clinical development and commercialization. We are targeting the $100 billion immuno-oncology market, and specifically the opportunity to identify early the 30% of patients that respond to immuno-oncology drugs, ensuring they get access to an effective therapy as quickly as possible, and reducing the amount of time, money, and clinical costs associated with patients who do not respond. So turning to our overall strategy, not surprisingly, our aspiration is to create as many iBody-enabled drugs and diagnostics as possible using our proprietary platform. We are particularly focused on novel and challenging drug targets where our iBody structure is most advantaged and where we can compete and provide solutions not available through traditional antibody technologies. We'll generate value from this platform in two ways. First, by continuing to develop a pipeline of in-house drug candidates that we fund ourselves through phase 1 and potentially phase 2 before licensing to pharma. And secondly, through a collaboration model with pharma and biotech, where they bring the target, we bring the iBody capabilities, and together we develop drugs, and our GE collaboration is the first example of this type of external pipeline asset. So this strategy is not unique. It's been done before. It's been done before in the single domain antibody space, and Ablynx, I guess, is a company that we look up to and model our aspirations on. Ablynx is a Belgian company, developed a pipeline of camelid-based single domain antibodies, and they entered their first clinical trial in 2007. Were eventually bought 10 years later by Sanofi for $5 billion US. They had 8 programs in clinical trials at that time, over 10 pharmaceutical partnerships, and the acquisition price was a 10-fold multiple on the approximately $500 million they'd raised on the journey through over those 10 years. Ablynx's strategy in 2007 was no different to AdAlta's. Leverage the platform to rapidly identify potential drug candidates, is exactly what we are continuing to do today through the development of our internal pipeline. Driving our lead product candidate through clinical development, which we're doing with AD214, is really important to validate the clinical potential of the platform and address those fundamental platform questions around immunogenicity that pharma wish to see answered, as well as creating obviously a valuable asset in its own right. The third strategy is partnering to maximize the market potential, and this is why we're pursuing an external pipeline. We can't hope to develop all of the possible drugs from the antibody platform ourselves, and so our partnering strategy right from the early days of discovery of new drugs is important. And finally, Ablynx were committed to maintaining and expanding their technology and their IP position, and AdAlta likewise is continuing to invest in our IP and our antibody platform. So our opportunity isn't to say we are on the trajectory that Ablynx was at the time they had their first clinical trial. We're not about to put 3 programs into clinical development next year, and we don't have 50 employees yet. But that's certainly the trajectory we're aiming to get on, and really we're using the opportunity afforded to us by our first clinical trial and our first commercial validation of the platform to get us onto this kind of growth trajectory. And in 2020, we've successfully transitioned to the expansion phase of our growth plan. We've achieved the clinical and commercial validation we were seeking. We've just raised $8 million to drive us through the expansion phase through 2021 to lay the foundations for growth. And those funds will enable us to progress AD214 through phase 1 clinical trials and extending the preclinical portfolio and data set behind the asset. It will also enable us to add 2 internal products and 1 external collaboration to our pipeline and invest in continuous platform development. From there, that will position us to accelerate from mid-2021 onwards. And by 2023, we aim to be a true multi-product, multi-partner platform company. AD214 will be partnered and progressing in multiple indications, and we will have up to 5 internal GPCR programs and 3 to 5 co-development partnerships operational. So this means our pipeline slide will become much busier over the coming years. Last year, we had a single product heading towards clinical trials and had just signed our collaboration with GE Healthcare. Over the course of the last year, we've progressed AD214 into the clinic and significantly progressed the GE collaboration. Over the next year, we continue to progress 214 in IPF, but also the preclinical work in additional indications. We expect to add an additional 2 assets into our internal pipeline. We'll progress Granzyme B with GE into preclinical development and add another partnership. And by 2023, we expect to be a 10-product company. This slide shows the major milestones we've achieved in the course of the past year, both for AD214 in the top and in other areas of the business below. And more importantly, the milestones that we see coming in the following 12 months. Again, for AD214 and importantly in the other parts of our business. And the most significant of these you can see circled now on this slide. All of these will bring us towards the first partnering window for AD214 towards the end of next year. Our team is deeply industry experienced across all aspects of platform company, growth and development, clinical trials, respiratory and pulmonary and fibrosis functions, clinical capabilities, and CMC manufacturing. And we've expanded the team to, as you would expect, to in the last 12 months to add clinical capabilities. We have a healthy cash position. As at the 30th of September, we had $10 million worth of cash, having just raised 8. And we've generated another 800,000 since with our R&D tax return. We have a loyal and strongly supportive shareholder base. And in fact, of the 8.1 million we've just raised, 69% of that came from our existing register, which we're extremely pleased with. So in summary, AdAlta, we believe, is a very attractive investment proposition. We have a patented antibody platform for asset creation designed for difficult targets. We have a clinical stage, first-in-class asset for fibrosis in AD214, targeting a $3 billion orphan disease market. We have commercial validation of the platform with GE Healthcare, which is revenue generating. We have a clear vision for growing existing internal and external assets and a $10 million cash balance with which to do that. We offer to our partners a way of hitting targets that have proven challenging to traditional antibody therapeutics, and in GPCRs are some of the most sought after drug targets in our industry today. We have a very attractive and important first-in-class fibrotic asset available for partnering as well. Pardon me. And for investors, we really represent an opportunity with a validated platform and cash runway that's valued today essentially as a single asset company. So we have significant expansion potential and significant value creation potential ahead of us, an experienced drug development team ready to lead the way to deliver on that opportunity. So with that, thank you very much for your attention today. I look forward to receiving questions and comments throughout the conferences and other places that this video will appear, and really look forward to engaging with our broader investor and partner community. Thank you very much for your time.